Okay, so tell me about your music. I'm just going to let it run, but
Yeah, music, my life. That's why I joined. I used to be a flight attendant in SAA, and the reason I joined SAA was to see music. At, I grew up in a tiny, tiny little village just across the hill here called McGregor. Now in McGregor there was nothing. It was Radio 5 and LM, and that was it. So the first song that caught me, that really, really caught me, was John Lennon's Mother. And I think that was about 1970. I remember listening LM, the final, and number 2 was Barbara Streisand's Mother, and number 1 was John Lennon. I got hooked. And from McGregor, I went to high school in Robertson, and the big boys were listening to stuff like Black Sabbath, Uriah Heep, Deep Purple. And I got hooked completely until one of the guys said to me, "Why don't you go and see the movie Woodstock?" I said, "What's Woodstock?" He said, "No, just go to the drive-in in Ashton." Now, Ashton is our third village from here, and Ashton had a drive-in. In the 70s, Ashton had a drive-in, and Woodstock was about the 4th movie that they showed. The first one was Grensvechter, but Woodstock, I remember I sat in the back of a Beetle and I watched that movie and I thought, that, I want to be a hippie. I want to be one of those oaks. I want to live like that. I want to see the music. I also want to take the drugs, and I also want to check what's going to happen. I was 12. And through my high school career, I didn't see very much. I went to see Julian Laxton Band. I went to see Hawk in Cape Town, in the old drill hall. Anything that I could. And then P.W. Botha called me up and said to me, "It's 2 years for you, you gotta go." But in matric, I started to hitchhike to Worcester. Now, I hitchhiked from McGregor to Robertson, jumped the freight train from Robertson to Worcester, and it stays an hour there. Jump off the train, run to the record place, buy my LPs, hide on the train, come back and go all the way. My dad would have moored me to pieces if he knew. "Where were you this weekend?" "Oh no, I just played around the corner." But that's how I collected my music. I hitchhiked to Worcester to get. There was a shop on Robertson called Stip. And Stip's nephew was here the other day, about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And Stip still exists, but I don't know if he still sells LPs. Then in the army, I realized there's only 2 bands I want to see in this world. That's the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin, and how am I going to do it? Until some guy came to me and he said to me, "Why don't you become a coffee morphy?" "What? Coffee morphy?" You say, "Yeah, man. Those who serve tea and coffee on the aeroplanes. They fly the world for you, can see everything you want. Now you want to go to Europe, you want to hitchhike to see a band, and you want to hitchhike in America to see a band. Why don't you just do this job?" So off I went. First band I saw, Status Quo. Second, the Stones. But I'm bullshitting you now. I lie. That was when I started flying. But before you start flying overseas, you get a flight overseas. And on that flight, 31st of May 1980, I saw Led Zeppelin in Mannheim. Now that was my reason. That is why. And I believe somehow that there was only 1 or 2 concerts after the Mannheim concert. And the Stones I went to see in London had a mode of a transport ban on the day. And it was crazy getting there. Even hitchhiking, buses and anything. Eventually got there, and then I went the next day as well. And after that, the whole story followed. Neil Young, Jethro Tull, everything I could see there. Eric Bird and Rory Gallagher. That's all I saw in my first year, and it was like, you too. That album called Under a Red Sky, the movie was done in America, but the soundtrack, read on the back, Rockpalast, Germany. Saw that concert. That day it was them, it was the Stray Cats, Rory Gallagher, Eric Burden, and a German band called Bop, which I still love. Wonderful band. And so the story goes.
So you've how many? You counted how many concerts you've done?
Rick, I really got no idea. I have to make a list, but I made a list once and it worked out way over 300-400 bands I've seen. But you must realize that's over 40 years.
Yeah.
So it's a while.
Yeah.
And in the end, you become choosy who you want to see and what you don't want to see. Lately, after I left the airline, I managed to get a job in Germany in 2019 to work at a place called not Rockpalast, I'm lying, that was the one show, called Hertzberg. Now, Hertzberg started a year before Woodstock, so it's been going on longer than what Woodstock has been going. And what a vibe, what a peaceful, what a nice vibe. And all I used to do was to stack the fridges of the artists. I was not even a goofer, I was a fridge stacker. And I go in the morning, have their list, which I call a rider, check the rider out. Okay, this I want, this and this and this, stock that, this I want, this and this, stock that. And when it's done, I'm done. And most of the bands I sat on stage and watched. I saw some great people there, and I met some great people. And Graham Nash, I always wanted to meet. How the hell on earth would I have done it otherwise? And a German band by the name of Jane, I followed them since I was in school. And here I bumped into the lead singer, and I told him the story. And for 3 days we were buddies. We just hung together and talked nonsense. And there's another lot there that I'm still friends with up to this day. A band called Otis from Kentucky. Now, anyone who doesn't know Otis, I guess, check them up. They're pretty good.
Huh. And how did you get a job as a fridge stacker? I mean, how did you guarantee that you would be the fridge stacker?
Man, my German friend, I think you've met him. He was here for a couple of weeks, months in January. He's been involved with music for a very, very long time. And he's been involved with everyone and everything. And they always gave him a job. So he said to this, I've got this South African guy, he's not scum to work, we wouldn't try him. And he said, yes. And there I worked. I didn't work for money, I never worked. When it comes to music, I don't want money. I want food and I want a drink, and that's it. And he said, okay, let's try him. At the end of the concert, he said to Marcus, if you can bring me 50 South Africans, I can fire the rest. So it was quite a compliment in my hat. And with COVID now, there was no Hertzberg. But there's one this year, and this year I can't make it. My son was here, so I'll try and make it in the next year coming. See what's what and who's who on the tour, because by then you'll see what. Because COVID stopped me seeing Paul McCartney. I almost cried. Ticket for Paul McCartney, aeroplane tickets for Cartman, train tickets, a football ticket to see a good match, my son to see, and yeah, bra, COVID came and he tuned me, nah, bra, not your turn. So yeah, but now, I go and see the music at the Karoo Saloon, because at the saloon, Marius brings in amazing South African bands, really, really band. So I don't really miss overseas music. It's got it right here on my footstep or doorstep. And music is in my veins. It will be in my veins, and it will always be in my veins. Movies, books, and music. People say, what do you do all the day in Barrydale? I love myself. I don't have to look for people to get on with. I'm 100% on my own. And I bought all this crap to read one day or to listen to one day when I'm retired. And it's working.
Charles, so